Alright, whenever you're given an equation, it may or may not represent a function. And what is happening here is normally we have y equals something where the y is not squared, it is simply to the first power. So what they want to ask you first is determine the values of y if the domain values are 0, 1, and 8. Well, this is simply a plug-in. You're going to plug in these three values in x and you're going to solve for y. Now, remember, for example, when you have x is 0, then you would have 0 plus y squared equals 17, and then, excuse me, you would have to take the square root of both sides. And please don't forget that when you take the square root of both sides of an equation, there are two possible square root values, a positive and a negative one. And if you leave that off, then you're leaving off a possible solution. So when I put 1 in for x and I solved an 8, I got these three different sets of answers. Actually, there are 6 answers. Each represents 2 different answers. Okay, now is this a function? Well, if you look at the table of values, when I set up my work in 1a as a table, then I notice that for every x value, I have 2 different y values. And according to the definition of a function, for every domain or every x value, there is one and only one range value or y value. And this contradicts that statement, so what I have is not a function, but it does represent a relation. It does represent sets of ordered pairs of numbers. Now, for every relation you have, you can express it as 2 functions. So, for this problem, all I did was I solved for y. So I'm saying that this relation can be represented by 2 different functions. That is, if you put together y equals the square root of 17 minus x, and you put that together with minus 17 minus x, if you were to graph these 2 functions in your calculator, you would get a graph that goes back to this relation. And we did this in class when we did circles. You can't graph a circle as one function, but you can split it up as 2 half circles and graph it that way, where you have a relation here, together they look like one function.